Hi, Duke.
Hello, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. And first, I want to start like we got this thing about the topic of at least the first podcast I'm doing when I decided to do this thing. One of the things that I enjoy the most playing in a Latvian blues band and Bites blues band back in Bites Blues Club back in
Yes.
days. This was that feeling like basically every second every other weekend one of you guys from the States, from Chicago mostly, right, came along and we would like back them up, and that's how we learned to play the blues, right?
All
And
right.
and because of it happened so often, like I'd say, like every other week, felt like it's like maybe you can say another blues club in Chicago's blues club just located in Riga, right? Because there were guys
Yeah.
who would play like, okay, on Tuesday I got Rosa Strut, then I got Kingston Mines, and then I got to go to Bikes Blues Club, right?
That's great.
But yeah, and but one of the things I enjoyed most, like that time, I was still not playing in a Latvian blues band. I was in a house band in Blues Club, but we met in the studio. Remember when you produced the first album?
Yes. Yes.
And times like that, and after maybe some after the gig when we get into the van to go home, right? And there's those stories coming up, after maybe a glass
Yeah.
of whiskey or something. And that's one of the things I've enjoyed the most during the years, besides, of course, playing blues with the best of the best. I enjoyed that made me felt like I belonged there, those backstage stories.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is one of like kind of the most topic of the podcast, like not a lesson, not or something, but just your story.
Okay.
And and I mean, you're the guy that who, even just checking on the Wikipedia, right? There's like a bunch of albums and bunch of lot of guys you worked with during the years, because you go way back, right?
Yes, I do, because I'm old.
And I remember one of my first concerts where I saw you on a DVD in a Blues Club Live. What Ziggy gave me was with you playing with Albert Collins,
Oh, yes.
which is like one of my favorite like blues artists in that way, in Texas. So
Me too.
and so during this hour, what we're gonna spend, if you in any point or maybe right now, if you got this backstage story coming out that you want to share, then at any
Oh,
point you're
boy.
welcome.
You know, uh, maybe as we talk, something will come to mind, but
Yeah, that's what I mean.
it's been so long, Uh, lucky for me, I got to play with many of my favorite blues players while they were still here, and most of them have passed on now.
Yeah,
The legendary guys, the Buddy Guy is one of the only ones left. Um, so a lot of this was a long time ago, and I do have stories, but I usually can't just recall them on the spot,
yeah.
So
That's
as
why
we
I want
talk,
you.
maybe
That
I'll think.
that was like heads up. If something comes up, then you can spit it out.
Yes.
But talk okay. And first, yeah, I want to congratulate you with your album that just came out, right? You just released
Oh,
a CD.
yes.
I haven't heard it yet, but I already saw a lot of things in Facebook. And
It's I think it's one of my best, absolutely, of my whole career.
okay, I'm definitely gonna check it
Probably
out.
one of my, you know, five best albums. And partially because I have so many fabulous guests on it, but also because I have such a great band that can play so many styles of music uh, properly. And I'm, very proud of that. And
Definitely gonna check it out because until this, so far, my favorite album of yours is "Worldful of Blues,"
oh, okay.
and that song
Yeah.
"Everything Is Broken," I think, which kind of
Oh,
changes from the straight beat like da 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 go into the shop floor or something.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite records of yours so far.
All right. Well,
Don't know why,
thank you.
but just and
Great.
yeah, and so we're on the subject that how could you describe, like, because you go way back, so and you play with so many greats. Uh if we're not talking about this couple of last years, which basically stopped everything, then last previous year something, how would you describe your like everyday blues life? How was it back then? What was your life then when you started playing, when you play like with Pine Top and Albert or whatever, or yourself with Roomful of
Uh,
Blues, you know?
well, when I'm not on the road, I listen to a lot of music, and especially in the old days, I you know I learned blues before I started playing with the famous blues musicians that I have played with, by listening to records. And I used to spend about 10 hours a day when I started listening to records, and learning, off the records.
Yeah.
So that, what my typical day was, I don't know, just like anybody else's day. But listening to music has always been a big part of my life. It still is, really. I
Is it?
listen to actually a lot of music on 78s now, the original form of records, the 78 RPM records. I've got some right next to me here. Here's the Bessie Smith record from the
Hey,
1920s, and I've I've got thousands of them. So I collect 78s, and well, all kinds of records, vinyl 78s and CDs. But
yeah, and I suppose since you have just released a new CD, that nowadays it's pretty big, the same, right? You still
it's yeah, it's
go to studio, work, do your thing.
well, I do a radio show too here, and that takes up quite a my time. And yeah, I spend a lot of time listening, looking for material. But I do play blues on my radio show, but it's not a blues show. It's a show of old music that has it all comes from 78. So my show is from 1917 through about 1960. Any kind of music that I find that I like that's from 78, I record the 78s, and that they're on I do my show from that.
Okay. And by the way, now one backstage story from me just came up, as I remember. You used to have, or maybe you still have, that guitar, what you also played in Denmark. Would you say it's like that you made it look like some original? It was, I think, Fender, something Stratocaster, but you said it's Korean, but but it sounded really great.
Yeah, I'm not sure what guitar I had then, because I change guitars and sell and trade and buy guitars. I've owned over 1,000 guitars in my lifetime.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I
this
can't remember which one I played
so
then.
the story about it was that I remember when I saw it, and we talked about it, and our manager, remember Ziggy, when he used to
Yes.
tell he used to tell us, like, when I started playing the band, you had this guitar and you bought it and then you smashed it to make it sound better, and that was, we believe. And then I asked you about it and you said no, 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 like, I smashed it so it looks old, but it started to
Right.
sound better, right? That's the story what I, I referred.
Yeah, that's it. Well, once the finish is worn down to the wood, then that enables the wood to dry out. So if I did smash a guitar and actually broke some pieces off it, and I glued them back on later. But actually, if the wood is exposed on an instrument, it allows it to become more dry, and the more dry it is, the better it sounds. It becomes, yeah, I don't know, there's something about the vibration of it, so.
Yeah, cool. And so let's move on. And the next section we got here, I called quotes and shit. So the thing,
Okay.
the thing is, I have like, let me just find out. So I got three quotes here, like blues related.
Yes.
And what I want to do, what I did the same with Bob. I'm gonna tell you the quote and see if you can guess or feel who might have said it and how you can relate to that.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So every bad situation is a blues song waiting to happen.
Well, that certainly is true. Um,
Do you think
who,
who might have said it?
let me see. Almost any blues man
Yeah, but
would
the
agree
funny
with
thing is,
that.
I give you a hint. So maybe I can just heads up, but it's none of the blues. It's not a hit. It's only quote I have from none kind of blues guys. So I was surprised it's Amy Winehouse.
Amy Winehouse,
Yeah,
huh?
I was surprised too,
Wow,
but
I would
I
never have
was,
guessed that.
yeah,
But
same here. But
she certainly knew about the blues, that's for sure. Uh, but that's interesting. Very interesting. Yeah.
and
I would have
so
been guessing that for days.
of course
Never get it.
that's why I stopped it here. And so
Yeah.
you totally agree with that, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. But besides bad situations, every life situation is a blues song waiting to happen, because blues songs are about the basic things in life, you know, the very basic things, uh, whether it's your health or drinking or
Of
friends or lovers or everything. Yeah, you could write a blues song about anything.
course.
That won't necessarily be a good blues song, but you certainly can write a blues song about anything.
Yes. How it's gonna turn out, I guess it's up to the artist. Because
Yes,
if you're good, you can take anything out, you know.
yes,
Uh,
that's true.
okay, then actually I didn't prepare this, but next that came in my list is let's go a little deeper. Next quote: "It's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to make a blues record."
Whoa. Well, who would have said that? You're really stumping me with these. I mean, first of all, I don't agree with that. But
Yeah, but actually, that's more important. What I wanted to ask for, like, than who said it, because I didn't know it either. It was like just saying Hugh Laurie.
oh, is that who it was that said
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Wow. I would imagine he's a rich man.
Okay.
He's an actor. He must be a rich man. But yeah, I don't think, there's so many arguments these days, especially about whites and blacks playing blues. Blues is a feeling. And back in the day when all the guys that created it were alive, I mean, the guys that created the modern style of blues, and I got to play them. I played with them. I got to meet them, back them up. I even met Son House and spent some
Okay.
time talking to him. And, you know, I think they all felt that if you feel blues music, uh, then, you know, you can appreciate it. If you can play it or not depends on how much effort you put into really learning about it. And besides that, there's a natural thing that you have in music. And if you've got the ability and you have the ability to understand and you have musical ability, then you can learn to play the blues. I don't think it has anything to do with, obviously, I won't say won't have anything to do, because the obviously the people that invented it, the Southern Black musicians, you know, did have a different way of life, and
Yeah.
that that's what caused them to create it and help them to create that we don't know anything about, you know. Uh, but it doesn't mean that you can't learn about it and learn to play it if you have the talent. That's the main thing, is that you have to have the talent and the understanding.
Yeah.
Of
But
course, it's true that none of us, uh, you know, white people, there's very few that can play it as well as a black
yeah,
musician, but there are some,
there are
and
some.
they
I
will
would.
certainly agree with it.
Uh,
There's less people today that agree with it, but
and actually, two of people who can I really say for sure right now, it's like you and Bomber Golan, definitely. Because
yes, I mean,
because
we
when I
played.
listen to you, those Albert Collins records, and this live show, it's if you would close my eyes and show, I would never tell there is like four black guys and white people, how you put it, or something.
Right, right.
Just and that's the same when you listen to Marty with Bob. It's
Yeah, that's right.
you will never
It was
tell.
never it was never really about color. It was about music.
Of
It was
course,
about sound and enjoying each other's ability to play music and enjoying the same kind of sounds, And if you love it, then you can learn to do it. If you've got the talent, as I always have to say, that you have to have the God-given talent. But
by the way, talking about Soundhouse, do you know there's this seven film collection of Martin Scorsese about the blues?
yes,
And the
yes,
first one, where Corey Harris is going to the Africa and to the roots where it all came from, it's called Going Home. And
yes.
there was a couple of interviews, and Soundhouse was on the movie. And
Oh,
when you mention him, I recall, I vividly see this picture in my mind where Soundhouse is talking, and he's like, the young people are asking me if I know what blues means. And then he continues like, I've been married 5 or 7 times. I know what the BLUES, the blues means.
I don't know if I've seen that or not. I don't remember
It's
that
very first
scene.
of them, but
Right.
yes. And okay, and then the last one I found, I really want to ask you. It's like, particularly with the blues, it's not just about bad times. It's about the healing spirit.
Now, who said that?
It's Taj Mahal.
Taj Mahal. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. And it
Right?
certainly is true. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite his albums is World Music, if you know that one.
Which one?
World Music.
I don't know if I know that one.
It's
No, I'm not familiar
really
with
what
that.
it says. Okay, so and now moving on, what would you be like? We started also like this program with Latvian Blues Band now that we are recording blues standards. You should know, like all the standards we played with you, all the guys, for a couple of years,
Yeah.
and everything starting from like most common ones going till that once in a while somebody's gonna play it, you so you better know it, right? And
Okay.
what would be your suggestion to our like students, like first five blues standards that comes out of your mind that you should definitely know?
Well, I took the opposite approach to that myself because
Okay.
I didn't want to play tunes that everybody else was playing. So I always looked for more obscure songs myself. But as far as ones that you should know, I don't know. The ones everybody does know would be Sweet Home Chicago, uh, Stormy Monday, Hoochie Coochie Man. You know, there's many of them that are standards, but my favorite standards of blues are the old, really old ones, like the ones by people like Leroy Carr, like
Okay.
How Long, How Long, How Long.
Yes.
That's I consider that an important blues standard. Trouble in Mind, another one that's not really that different from How Long. But the ones that were standards way back in the 20s, are the ones that are most important to me. You know, it depends. The blues has been around a long time, so it depends which era, which
Yeah.
decade you're talking about. In the 50s is very different, you know, than back in the 20s or the 30s, you know.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah, but that was the main thing. Like, just you already told like first five who came out of your mind, right? And actually, now from the later podcasts, I now realize you help me understand that how to formulate the question better. Like, what I wanted to ask you, like, if you were come with us to play a concert, like, right,
yeah,
there's like five standards that you would play, like, you should want us to like look at. So,
sure,
like,
yeah,
how
yeah,
long? And you said already, yeah,
yeah,
cool.
yep, that one or I don't know. There's so many of them. I mean, there's so many blues
Ah,
songs.
yes. And then another question, like if I come to you as like for suggestion, like I want to learn blues or something, and which is the first album that comes in your mind that you would give me right away, and like, okay, just start listening to this.
Well, I think it would depend on what style of blues that you want to learn first, because there's so many styles. There's acoustic,
Yeah,
just within acoustic blues or within electric blues, there's so many styles. Usually, people, when they're starting, they want to learn something that's newer because they don't know about the old music right away if they're starting out, unless they listen to it for years and then. But I would say Jimmy Reed would be a good place to start because Jimmy Reed is, you know, relatively simple and it gives you a whole style of music, you know, like Jimmy Reed style. Uh, it's just necessary to know that sound and that style, and it would be a good place to learn to start because there are so many great Jimmy Reed songs, and they have similar as guitar songs. They have similar style of playing, so it would be a good place to start. I would say Jimmy Reed.
yeah. But you mentioned a good thing that what I was always thinking about that, like what you said about it. You like one music, but you have to listen for the older one that this music came from. Like if you like Stevie Ray Vaughan and you wanna develop your own style, maybe in that direction, you should listen to like Albert King, right? And things that
That's right, and
to
Buddy
listen
Guy and
to.
Otis Rush,
Yeah,
Albert Collins. I mean, those are all the big, and Hubert Sumlin, and those are all the big Stevie influences.
yeah,
And when before Stevie actually recorded, he used to come up to where I live to play, and he was playing very small clubs. And Stevie and I had very similar influences at that time. This was like late uh, late 70s, early 80s, before he recorded, and we sounded very similar to each other. But then I started getting more jazz influences, and I started, you know, just getting a different bunch of people that influenced me. And he started getting, you know, Jimi Hendrix became part of his influence. And
yeah,
so, you know, we kind of went in different directions. But, but those guys I mentioned, you know, Otis Rush, Buddy Guy, of course, BB King, um, Albert Collins, and Albert King, you know, were all very, very big influences. And yeah, those are the guys you have to go back and listen to. Stevie would tell you, if
Yeah.
he was here now, he would say, don't listen to me, go listen to Albert King, go
Yeah.
listen to, that's what we all do. We all say, go back
And
and listen to
actually,
Stevie.
I think we can go even further with this because there's a video on YouTube that really blew my mind when I first saw it. It's a video with Albert Collins and Jimmy Vaughan sitting in a room with their guitars in the lap, and watching T-Bone Walker on the TV.
Oh, I saw that years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, like I said, Albert Collins, Jimmy Vaughan. Okay, Jimmy Vaughan, he's like kind of the new age in comparing with that. But anyway, Albert Collins
Yes.
sitting in a room and just watching like T-Bone Walker. We're like, wow, man, and tried copying some things, with unplugged guitar, and Jimmy Vaughan's
Yeah.
there. So yeah, they would say the same.
Yeah, they would. Yeah.
Okay, and moving next, do you have some like advice to our students? And blues
Well,
advice,
yes.
like
My advice is, we've already talked about it, but I would say it again, is whatever style. I'd say this is good for any kind of music, but especially blues, that you really need to, whatever style you hear, when you hear somebody who's relatively current, new, that you have to find out what the influences they are that made them attractive to your ears. You need to find out who they listen to and where they learned from, and then go back and find those people and find who they listen to. Because some of these people you trace back to the earliest, like, street performers, like you know Texas Alexander and uh, Blind Lemon Jefferson. They, as some of these guys coming up, I think T-Bone, I think, used to like learn from Blind Lemon Jefferson and follow him around and lead him around. It goes way. You have to find out where it all came from, and you have to learn how it developed between each generation of players. That's the best way to learn. History is, to me, the most important thing. Uh, Today, history is not, to a lot of people, history isn't that important. But I think to the entire world, for every subject, uh, that we need to learn from history as much or more than learning from what the newest fad or the newest scientific advance is. We have to look back and see, because first of all, uh, it's information that is really important, and sometimes more important than what's new coming up. It's great that new kind of communications and recording and all of this computers, and the fact that we can sit here and do this.
yeah,
But there's a lot more to life than just technology, and we need to keep that in our heads, because we may lose our souls if we don't. I think to uh, really have a good idea about what life is really about, that we have to keep history in focus.
yes, yeah, that's
I'm
right.
getting kind of deep now, but
No, no, that's really cool, man. That's good stuff. We have an audience question. What we do always one time, and
all
the
right.
question: how is Albert Collins as a person?
Oh, he was beautiful. He was a sweetheart, really, really. I mean, I've played gigs where Albert Collins, when I first met him, would come and sit like in the second row and listen to me. I mean, he was just such a sweetheart. People with big egos don't do stuff like that, but he would be, he enjoyed what I did, and he wasn't afraid to let me know. He wasn't gonna, well, I'm Albert Collins, so I'm not gonna listen to that guy. He was just a really sweet and wonderful person. although if you didn't know him and you watched him play up close, he looked so crazed when he played. His
Yeah, right.
eyes, he'd be scary. He was
Yeah,
very scary when he
too
actually had a
clean.
guitar in his hand. But I'll tell you one thing that towards the end of Albert Collins' life, I did a show uh, and I opened for him, and I had to play like a longer set because Albert hadn't shown up to the gig yet.
Okay.
And uh, they told they told us after that Albert wasn't feeling well, and he went to a hospital to get some tests done on the way to the gig, and they couldn't find anything. But this is when he had cancer, and they didn't find it that day because he didn't have very long to stay in the hospital. But he must have known something was happening because at the end of the night, he told me, he said, take, take, take good care of yourself, Duke. He said, there's not a lot of us left. And I guess he meant guys that play in the old style or love the old style. And just a few weeks after that, he was dead. And at the moment, I wasn't sure what he was telling me, but he didn't know yet he had cancer, but obviously he must have known
Yeah, that something's
that he was
wrong.
really sick. Yeah.
Okay, and then moving on, what's your thoughts about the future of the blues nowadays? Is it threatened? Is it safe and going?
Well, boy, people ask that question a lot, and uh, I mean, blues. The fact that BB King got had a hit record and then got as popular as he did, and the fact that other people have been able to play festivals and all that, blues was not so gigantically popular until BB King really showed how it could reach an audience, like a giant audience worldwide. So I don't think there's any question that blues will continue because it's basic and it's easy to like, it's easy to enjoy, and there's people all over the world that have learned to play it in every country and can play it well. So I don't think it's going anywhere, and it's also very encouraging that the more young Black people are playing it, and like just uh, Kingfish just
Yeah,
won a Grammy, you know. So, and he's just 23 years old. So uh, it's great that it's not being frowned upon like it was for so many years by Blacks, because they wanted to forget about the slavery and just poor living conditions in the South, not having good jobs and earning money. I think now it's not so much completely uh looked upon that way. It can be looked upon as an art form now, is which is really what it is. It came from poverty, but it's not, it doesn't have to be that way,
yeah.
and
Also, I
BB
would
King proved it.
yeah, and also I would say in a musically that's the same. You like describe it in mentally and socially, like, and also musically it has developed to the point that a lot of times, like when we're around, especially in Europe or somewhere, and then you go to this bar and somebody sees you with a bass or with a T-shirt with your band name or something, and like, oh, you play
Yeah,
blues, and then they're like, I don't really like listen to the blues that much, but then they asked to put some song on, and if I put, like, if you remember example Evil in our version,
yeah, yeah, yes.
where you played as, and I played the song, and they're like, oh dude, that's not blues. I'm like, no man, that's blues. You just don't really know what the blues means, like nowadays. it's
Well,
it's not
yeah,
only like the guy with one guitar, like, in Delta blues. It's not just that. It's Nowadays,
Yeah,
with
it's
everything, you know.
blues has influenced pretty much every kind of American music, but we've gone past that. But it has, if blues didn't exist, then country music wouldn't exist, rock and roll wouldn't exist, heavy metal wouldn't exist. A lot of heavy metal is
Yeah,
just blues played loud and hard,
yeah.
So its influence in the world is, it's not going away for a long time.
One of my favorite, like I don't listen a lot of like heavy stuff, but Corn I really like. And as a lot of times I considered take the drive out of the Corn and this like funky meters, like just the metal version, because they got a lot of like you like those second line things like or things like
Yeah,
that. That
yeah.
it actually you can root back from to New Orleans, second line and to
It all,
meter grooves, like just with drive and heavy.
yes, yeah, that's true. And New Orleans is responsible for so many different kinds of music, and
And
really soul music. New Orleans had a lot of influence. Its soul music, I think, grew out of it, and especially that kind of bass playing.
and
James Jamerson and
yeah,
people
of
like
course.
that.
All the Motown records and
Yeah.
also did you know that John Bonham from Led Zeppelin, his
Yes.
favorite drummer was Zigaboo.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
That's
if you listen
interesting.
to whole lot of like if you listen to them, like it makes perfect sense. Like, their first album with Whole Lotta Love and all those Willie Dixon stuff.
Yes.
And when you listen to those grooves, like if you think Zigaboo and like he plays the rock so funky and so albeit that when you start think of it, it makes perfect sense.
Yes. Yeah. I can see that.
Right. Yeah. And then if you have any like thoughts on this, what we should learn our students now, what's missing in the world to know the blues better?
Well, it's just
What we should teach our students, I mean,
uh just expose them to the best of blues music, I'd say. I mean, uh because when people get exposed to really good stuff, uh, they're more likely to understand it, and or at least learn. They're more likely to feel something from it. It's I guess, I mean, that's all I can think of, because everything I listen to and think about is it's all very old. I I don't pay that much attention to. I occasionally hear new music that I think is really good and I enjoy, but I'm still caught up in listening to music that happened a long time ago, because that's what I love. That's what I love.
yes.
Can I say?
No, it's really good. Like, actually, I was surprised, but you put it pretty much the same. Like expose the young guys to the blues music, and what Bob Margolin said to this, he said like what he's doing apparently on his some appearances somewhere on some
Yeah.
workshops. Said like now YouTube is available to everyone. Put some Muddy Waters live concert and take your
Oh,
laptop and put it through the old tube guitar amp. And he said,
right.
and his guitar to that amp from YouTube is gonna sound as pretty close as you can get to what I was hearing on the stage playing with him, like that really
Wow.
sharp sound, even coming from computer. Don't put it to the loudspeakers, no, just old guitar tube amp.
Wow. I never thought of that. That's a cool idea.
Yeah. So and yeah, basically we're up to our over almost, and I want to thank you for agreeing of this and being here.
I'm glad that it finally worked out.
Yeah, I'm glad it finally worked out, and we're gonna definitely, I guess, keep in touch. And the last question we got, like, if you got like name one thing that each blues musician should always keep in mind every time he's playing the blues?
One what?
Like
Which
one thing that each blues musician should keep in mind every time he's playing the blues.
um well, we have a saying called less is more, which means don't play so many notes. Guitar players are so guilty of playing too many notes. You know, you to make a feeling really only takes a few notes. And I think, of course, it's good to learn technique. We all like to improve. It makes you feel good that you can improve and become better. But to make good blues music, you don't need play a lot of notes. You need to think about them and make them mean something, to tell a story with music. That's what's important. So that's I'd say the most important thing that I teach when I do teach people
And
is
I actually, when you're telling me this, then now I remembered that that's what John from Latvian Bluesman, guitar player or
yes,
singer, what he
yeah,
said about when they were making their first record with you. That
yeah.
I don't remember which particular song it was, but he said at one point we were like, maybe let's add this and this, and then he says, and Duke says like, hey guys, wait, no, just there's already too much to listen to. Like, and then I cleaned some things out, and they're like, oh yeah, now the song's breathing. Like,
I hope all the boys are doing good. Do you have all the same members still?
oh, like yeah, I've now I'm playing Blink as well. Oh yeah,
Yes,
the same members. We met in Denmark.
yes, that's
Basically
yeah.
the same as in Denmark. Just we don't have a second guitar player right now anymore. He's now
I
living
see.
in Jonathan. He's living in New Zealand, I guess, or
Ah,
Iceland. No, Iceland.
I see.
Yeah,
Wow,
but otherwise, yeah, the same.
great,
And our sax
great.
player artist now he mostly plays Hammond and sax. So
He plays Hammond organ, did
yeah,
you say?
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, he's a talented guy. He's really a good sax player. Boy, he really since I first heard him, he improved so much. He's very good. And now he plays organ too. That's great.
yeah. Because he used to play piano on Samsung and something, but then he just started to he bought like all this stage Hammond and started to practice, and now he mostly plays Hammond.
That's great. Please say hi to all the guys for me.
Definitely.
Now,
Uh,
how's Ziggy? Is Ziggy still in?
we're gonna say goodbye to the everybody here at the podcast now, and then we can finish our.
Yeah. Okay.
So guys, thank you. Well, thank you for being here for watching, and I'm really honored that first of our two guitar guys that has agreed to get in this train and start this blues mastery were Duke Robillard and Bomber Golin, and those are like, in my opinion, one of the blues greats still like living right now.
Well,
And
thank you.
thank
And good
you
luck
again.
with this. Good luck with your podcast.
Thank you. And we'll see you guys
All
later.
right. Thank you.